WanderingWinder back with another Dominion puzzle. So in this puzzle, it's some things that are important to note. This is a puzzle I watched from a recently spectated game, or a game which I recently spectated. I recently watched this game, and I thought, oh, this is a good puzzle opportunity, and so I'm presenting it to you now. So some things to note. You're first player. Okay, that's one thing to know. Another thing to note, your opponent has 8 debt. You both have fleet. Your opponent doesn't have any swamp hags in play right now. You played a cut purse and they discarded a copper. On their previous turn, your opponent played black cat, played 4 coppers, bought a villa, played villa, black cat, lab, city quarter, revealing this, drew 2 more cards, drew 2 more cards from the black cat, played villa, villa, 2 coppers, and then bought swamp hag, city quarter, and drew 5 cards, one of which was a copper here. So now let's talk about what's in each of your decks. First of all, there's nothing in the trash. Whoops. There's nothing in the trash, so you can just see, well, if you want to see the kingdom, to see what all the cards do, here you go. But there's nothing in the trash, so if you just want to see what's in each deck, you can see what's in your deck right now. You can see what's in your hand right now, so that's your deck. Everything else is your opponent's deck. If we want a quick rundown of that, you each have the fleet tokens, like I said. Your first player, like I said, you each have 5 black cats. You each have 2 city quarters. You have 2 vassals and 1 cut purse. They have no vassals and 2 cut purses. You have 5 villas. They have 4. You have 5 labs. They have 2. You have 2 swamp hags. They have 2 swamp hags. You each have all your starting cards because, like I say, nothing's in the trash. There's no exile here. So, having seen all of this, what do you want to do here? Give you a second. Okay, so I believe that the answer, hopefully you've paused your videos if you wanted to see. I believe the answer here is that you want to buy villa, 3 labs, and nothing else, playing the swamp hag after you buy the villa. So we see that in their last turn, they played 3 black cats, which means in these 9 cards, they have 2 black cats left. We see that they played a city quarter, and they bought their other city quarter, which means there are no city quarters here. We see that they played 1, 2, 3 villas, which means they have at most 1 villa left. We see that they played a lab, which means that they have a lab left. So they can play a lab, play a villa, play a black cat, and then they're out. Their turn is over. They have, in these 9 cards, they played 4, 5, 6 coppers last turn. You made them discard a copper with your cut purse, which means they have no coppers left in these 9 cards. They have how many estates, right? Let's see. They drew, when this was their hand, they drew 2 more cards, 4 more cards. One of them was a villa, one of them was a copper, and 2 were nothing. So those were probably 2 estates. So we're looking at 1 estate in these 9 cards. We're looking at 2 cut purses in these 9 cards. We're looking at 2 black cats in these 9 cards. So that's estate, cut purse, black cat, villa, lab. That's 7 cards. Swamp hag is 8. And the 9th card is their silver. So they can make 1 money off villa, 5 money off the cut purses, 7 money. Basically, they can't make enough money to buy anything that's worthwhile, right? If they could draw their deck here, they could afford Province, which would score them at least 4 points. Well, at most 4 points rather, because you have 2 swamp hags in play. If they could make 13 money, because they're in 8 debt, they could buy Duchy. Then you could maybe activate your black cats. Maybe they'd score a point, but probably they wouldn't. But they actually can't make that much money. The best they can do is not enough money to afford Duchy, because we know that they can't draw, right? They play a lab, they play a villa, they play a black cat, they play, well, even the black cat means that they're not going to draw. So they play a lab, they play a villa, they play 2 cut purses, they play their silver. That's 1, 3, 5, 7. That's only 7 money, right? They can't even pay off their debt. Even if I'm miscalculating slightly, it's not going to happen. So we know that they can't draw. We know that basically the worst they're going to do is play a swamp hag against us. Okay. That means they could play a swamp hag and maybe some number or maybe some number of cut purses against us, and they might have some black cats in their hand, right? On our turn, then, we're just going to need to score a point. So they're going to get a fleet turn. They can't do much with it. They can maybe get a little attacks in. We need to score a point. We have 2 swamp hags coming in, and we're going to have a random hand, right? So the worst case hand, we have 3 estates and 2 coppers, or we have 3 estates and 2 black cats probably is worse. In that case, we're not going to be able to afford province. We would have to buy a duchy. Let's say our black cat draws nothing live. It draws actions dead. We have 6 money. We're going to have to buy a duchy. We will lose if our opponent is able to chain 3 or more black cats. But it's very likely that we'll be able to afford at least province because we only need to have silver, cut purse, or vassal, or be able to draw almost anything. And if we get at least province, then that scores us 6 points. If our opponent has a swamp hag in play, actually, if our opponent has the swamp hag in play, they only need to react 2 black cats. If our opponent has the swamp hag in play, they would need to, if we can afford province, react all 5 of their black cats. And then, if we can afford province duchy, which is reasonably likely, actually, we win just straight out anyway, right? That gives us 2 curses. They can give us at most 5 more. We only need to score 1 point. So we're almost guaranteed to win. It's not quite a guarantee because we can have the worst possible hand of a combination of estates and actions which don't generate any money. We only draw stuff dead. But that's very unlikely. We're most likely to be able to afford province. If we can afford province, we almost surely win because our opponent would need to play their swamp hag and then react 5 black cats. And there's a very good chance that we can afford province duchy. And if we can afford province duchy, then we just win outright. So I think that's why I think this is the best play. It's not a guaranteed win, but it's very, very close. And actually, even if we weren't tracking our opponent's deck, even if they can afford a province here, they're taking 2 curses. We might be able to react our black cats in that case. Now we know we can't because they're not going to buy any green because they can't afford to. But right, even if we were just saying they're from a fresh shuffle, with the 8 debt, it's very unlikely that they're really going to significantly outscore us. And though they have some black cats and they might have a swamp hag or two even in play, we're most likely still going to be able to win in that situation. Now, we could also, because this isn't a guaranteed win, we should look at alternatives. Part of what helps us here is we're going to have 8 labs in our deck. So that's going to help us draw quite a bit. Anyway, we should look at alternatives. So our deck is better than our opponents. We have 3 extra labs, and we have 2 vassals and a cut purse against their 2 cut purses. I think that's a slight advantage to us. We have an extra villa, which is a slight disadvantage. Like our deck is, I think, slightly better than our opponents, mostly because we have 3 extra labs. It's not hugely better, but I think it's slightly but notably better than our opponents. So some alternatives here could be to buy some provinces. Our opponent only has 1 black cat, so that's not going to hurt us too much if we score here. This should put us in a good position also if we like double province here, right? We could also go for a couple more city quarters to really up our deck quality advantage even more. And I think that's fine. If we're not uh, emptying piles here, I think that it would be good for us to um, increase our deck quality advantage so that we reduce the chances that we dud. And we'd probably want a little more econ since right now we're making 20 money. A little more econ so that once our swamp hag comes in and that makes us 23, we'll have 24 to afford triple province here, right? So yeah, there's a lot of options, all of which are probably good for us because we're not under swamp hag attack right now, and because our opponent's innate debt. But I like going for the jugular right away here. To lose, basically, our opponent's going to need to react a lot more black cats than we have chances to dud. So I think we're like well over 90%, probably well over 95% to really win this game going for it now. And I think we're only largely advantaged if we do something like vassal, province, province. I think this only gives us a large advantage. So like here, we miss our swamp hag, for instance, and we're under swamp hag attack. This makes things a lot trickier for us, right? Now, we're still in good shape here. Don't get me wrong. We can double province. We can do a lot of things, right? Um, but if we double province, then we may be taking on a lot of curses, etc., right? Things like this can happen if we don't try to end the game right away. We have all of these junk cards, so this is the risk we run by not ending the game right away. This kind of turn could even be a little bit worse, which is going to be much more damaging to us. Now, the alternative, let's look at another alternative here, which was to buy, say, vassal, city quarter, city quarter. And now because we increased our deck quality more, we're much more likely to be able to draw our deck. And the game goes on. Like, we can triple province here, but we're taking a curse from each of those. They have at least 2 black cats they're going to react here. There's some chance they're going to react a third or even more. So we end up taking 5 curses at least. If we go triple province now, that makes it a bit awkward for us, right? Our opponent, well, they're unlikely to be able to do much on their next turn. Although if we triple province, they get to react to the cats. That's going to help them do more. But we have a pretty junky deck. I think we're still favored to win here, but things get much harder. Right? If we empty piles now, then we risk having a bad turn next turn, and etc., etc. So this seems also like a worst case to go for to me, because we're going to have an even junkier deck going into the fleet turns, and I don't want to do nothing now. I mean, I guess we could at this point take all this money and do like absolutely nothing, or we could re-seaway some stuff, right? We have 25 money. We can re-seaway 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things or something, trying to lower piles that way without taking curses. But somehow it's not as convincing to me as going for whoops, as going for this plan. And on this plan, you see our opponent doesn't have that much money. On this plan, we can just play Vassal, which is a little bit better than Cutpurse here because the attack won't matter. We're going to be able to afford Province. And actually, our turn does actually get to continue here. Whoops, this is a bad order because I shouldn't have played the Villa just then. As it turns out, it wouldn't have mattered. We find a city quarter. We actually do end up drawing here everything, though we didn't need to really. Once we had Province Duchy, it was a guarantee. And here we have 27 money. We can... I think our opponent never reacts with cats because they're a bot here, but regardless. Yeah, we win pretty easily. The estate doesn't make any sense to take, but you know, whatever, doesn't matter. Triple province is enough, double province is enough, province duchy is enough. Anyway, let me know if you guys think that some alternative was better, but I really think this seems to be the best line, even though it's not 100%. Thanks for watching.